Hello, so welcome back to another timeless reading. Um, you know the rules, they're just as simple as it is. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. But before we get into this reading right now, I do want to share a couple of downloads, whether it's relevant for this timeline or whether it's relevant for whatever other part of the timeline that's further from this timeline right now. It doesn't matter, even if I'm bringing up the transits and everything, um, or any particular sort of dates, they could or not, but they could very likely resonate with you. Especially if you have any sort of documentation like your notes or your journals, your audio recordings of that timeline that I would be talking about in this video or any other video. Like, take that as signs to check back because it might actually resonate with you after all. So the first download that I've gotten was this. I mean, I wouldn't say it was a download. It was an Instagram photo that I came across from under the name underscore awakened dot spirit. So there is a carousel of photos that she shared or they shared. I would say they. I'll go by they for now. And the quote says, well, before I say that, there's like this portal sort of door opening for this sort of, it's very appropriate for Aquarius season. And if you're an Aquarius, this is for you, okay? There's this alien that's like standing in front of this portal. And this portal, the absolute that awareness that spirit wants you to enter into, because whatever this best version of your life is, the best version of yourself in your life is, it requires you to go through that door. And it's not like anything dramatic either. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Now there's this like, and it's emphasized to go through it because of the highlight around it, right? And this alien is in this space, this different space, and the quote goes something like this: your awareness of me is a reflection of you. My reaction to you is an awareness of me. Okay? And I think there's also another credit that goes to the Quantum Mystic. I don't know who the Quantum Mystic is, but the name is in the bottom of the photo. So if there is a person with an account named the Quantum Mystic, then that's credits to the photo. Besides Awakened Spirit, who posted the photo that I found through the algorithm. So if this resonates with you, take it in. We'll go to the next download, and I'm not gonna like leave the downloads as they are. Okay, they're sort of like my like guidelines, or they're like kind of like like the anchors of the message. So whatever I'm going to be shuffling with this deck, let's say for example, oh my god, girl, okay, you know what? I might as well show it because maybe this is a part of the reading, okay? But before I show it, I'm just going to say that every point is an anchor, and if whatever card I pull out from the reading is going to relate to all of them, okay? In whatever way, even if maybe some ways are not relevant to other things that I've mentioned. Everybody is a whole gradient of a unique being within this gradient of being through us being alive and through nature, all whatever else. I have to show this because I just said what I said, and I was taken by surprise. But this was at the bottom of the deck. Okay, I have not used this deck in a long time. Yeah, I thought I'd let you know of that. That was a very interesting moment. So the next one is where you look is where you'll go. And I know this is like, Sometimes my downloads come through, sorry, sometimes my downloads come through in particular ways, right? They don't just come through in ways that has to do with the message coming through into my head all alone. Sometimes it's through different references and things that I'm just like, I just had this jolt of like inspired action, I think I would say, or call it that. It's like this jolt of inspired action, and I can't help but want to, write it down, right? So this was one of those things in the middle of like my driver's school course, which by the way, I'm almost done. But in the middle of my driver's school course, this was on a part or portion where I was learning about scanning while navigating the road, right? Now, we're all navigating through our own lives right now, right? And we're scanning while we're navigating, right? Whether it be like certain scenes from around us, or, you could be scanning, you could be picking up stuff from the radio, or you could be still having something inside your head, like while you're going on with your day, like about everything that's been going on, right? At first, I thought I was going to have to put my readings to the side and just keep up the timeless readings, because I thought they were a bit too long, that maybe it was a little too much for people to take in. But then there's just multiple times where people are talking about stories, like, especially from my last reading, The Power of the Pause and the Effort, the last super long reading that I did, where I talked about like how, where I gave advice and counsel to people who found out that somebody that they know in their lives that they love is actually not a good person. And I don't mean like not a good person as in like, or maybe no, I'm not saying in terms of good and bad. I'm saying in terms of like crime of any kind that has been done. Okay? Crime, wareism, supporters of wareism, or I could say heroism. Like, you know what I'm gonna say, right? I said all of this stuff, and I knew that people are going to need this kind of message. But at first, I took it down because I was thinking maybe it was too much. But then I've just been seeing so many stories on TikTok, to X, to so many other platforms of people finding out about their family members, about their partners, about their friends that they knew for so long. I can't imagine what that's like. So when you're navigating through the road of life, like all you want to think about is that, but you got to be careful, because when you navigate your life, you don't want it to be influenced by the impulsive thinking of whatever it is that you found out, to the point where like, you're not driving straight. You're not driving near the lines that you should be driving. You're not driving with the awareness that the stoplights could come up and you have to stop, or else you're going to crash onto others. That's a very specific example of that. And I just thought to myself, like, I might as well let somebody know on here who especially has found out about this. If you found out about somebody who has really, like, genuinely, I'm going to say this, fucked you up in your head after you found out what you found out, then I would suggest you watch the rest of this video. But I also recommend that you watch The Power of the Pause and the Effort, okay? So, next one. The Law of Cooking. Now, I don't know why I got to that part, but it's the same thing as driving, really. The law of cooking. The law of cooking, or the experience metaphorically of cooking, is like it is like metaphorically experiencing your journey as you drive, or you know, getting gas for the right car, or you know, the in between of all that stuff, in order for the fuel to keep going, but for you to also keep going, right? There's a sort of law, and you know, that I've even tried to get and have been getting more in touch with, because it's easy to ignore that law because we live in a society where we were built to not take into so much consideration of that type of law, such as cooking and nourishing ourselves. And it doesn't even have to be like a romanticized thing. It's like it's as simple as like this is a daily thing we do, okay, that we humans do. This is a daily thing. Be careful to not make the daily thing for you the daily thing you feed yourself with every single thing that's going on in the news. So that's why I was thinking to myself, the law of cooking might be relevant, or it could be relevant in a completely different way. Maybe you actually do cook. Maybe you're cooking a project. I don't know what's with everybody saying, you know, and also maybe like transmuting your statements too is the way to go as well. Because what we're not going to do every day as we feed ourselves, our minds, our spirits, our hearts, is not just the stuff that's going on in the news as well, even social media with people's stories, but feeding yourself every day with like this, with certain words, but with like saying stuff that doesn't align with what your goals are. You know, instead of saying, I'm cooked, say, I am cooking a very fucking amazing project. I'm cooking up this thing and that thing. And keep it moving. Because people are going to need each other to create something, to build something, to cook something, right? And even the process of cooking and what works with you best is like, you know, you don't have to go against the grain when you cook. You don't have to go against the grain when you create. And if you are, stop. Or else what you're cooking is not even going to be enjoyable. It's just going to stay in your fridge. And honestly, for some reason, this is like the same similar energy that's coming up in that reading that I did with the I Ching. It's called the power. I think, I'm not sure if it's the power of abundance or the power of something else, but it was either of those two videos. It's the I Ching videos that I posted. There's something about this cooking aspect that mirrors back to that time. So, anyways. So, next one. Everyone plays a part. Everyone plays a part. What part do you play? Or do you play more than just a part? You know, are you directing your part? Are you sound producing your part? Like, is there any music that aligns with that part that you're playing, that you see yourself playing? And that you should, because it's just gonna keep the vibes there. Okay? Stick with the script. Play your role that you know is genuinely required of you at this time right now. Okay? Now, the last one download that I'm going to share is this. So I assumed before, I'm not sure if it's through my previous reading but I know in general before, I assumed that privacy is the new gold. Because with everything that's going on online, especially, people are going to want to invest at some point when they find the source. And thankfully I found the source on my end, especially with my work and everything. But if that becomes an interest to you even many years later, and you're just like, Dove, like, what is it that you talked about when it comes to that, then I will bring it up to you. I'll be more than happy to bring it up to you, but I will not at this time. I brought it up actually in a video before called The Power of the Pause, right? And so you could check that out. I assumed privacy is the new gold, right? But after the events that have transpired even further since my last reading, right? I realized there's something even more valuable than that. Now, whatever it is, if you want to take a guess, write it down in the comments before you hear what I say. Because maybe your comment could be a download for somebody as well, okay? So, what I realized was even more valuable than privacy being the new gold. I think the new gold is integrity, okay? The new gold is integrity. Now, if we want to really get into detail about what integrity really means, let's go to the dictionary right now, right? Integrity. So, as a noun, integrity means the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. And the second one, actually, I didn't even know there was a second definition. I already knew that this was the first one. I'm like, yeah, of course it's that. But there's something else that I just found out right now. So let's read it together. The second definition of integrity is the state. Oh, girl. I'm going to be singing all the time, but integrity, the second definition of integrity is the state of being whole and undivided. Okay? The state of being whole and undivided. The condition of being unified or sound in construction. And another definition underneath that definition is internal consistency or lack of corruption in electronic data. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that I did not plan. I did not plan to say that. Look, I don't want to say it, but this has to come into my reading in whatever way, right? And there's no choice but for me to say it. But you need to really have a honest conversation with yourself. You need to have a conversation with yourself urgently. And I don't even mean to say that as in like a scare tactic or whatsoever. Or maybe you already had this conversation with yourself and you're thanking God about that, because it's not because, you should hide and you should be afraid. No, that's not it. That's not it. Like, and that's why I'm saying integrity is greater than privacy, because and I'm not saying privacy is not important to the point where you throw that shit out of the window. No, no, not in these fucking times. But integrity, if you're going to be having that, you need to have integrity when it comes to the respect that you have for yourself. And it could be meaning anything, really. And one of them is, internal consistency or lack of corruption in electronic data. Be careful that I'm just going to say this simply as this, because I don't have other words other than that. But be careful thinking that this has nothing to do with you, because it could have a lot to do with absolutely anybody. Even if you're doing the good deeds, such as maybe, let's say, telling people on social media, like, about the very people who are corrupt and inconsistent, to the point where that internal consistency or lack of corruption in electronic data has been transmuted into you talking about that fuckery on social media, right? Which, honestly, I'm not saying you shouldn't. But I'm saying if you're going to do that, as long as you're already in the nature of owning up to who you are as a person, whether it be who you were before to who you are now, okay? Make your thoughts, your likes, what you find important, what you're interested in, and anything else that's connected to that you see through your daily actions, such as liking a post, bookmarking a post, even if nothing is done negatively to you, especially if you're talking about these things, you do have to keep in mind of a very significant lesson that is trying to show up right in your face as well as everybody else's faces. You have to ask yourself why you believe that it belongs to those social platforms more than it does belong to you first. What is your definition of integrity? But yeah, what is, the question that, I would not mind at all if you want to break down in the comments as well. What is integrity to you? What is integrity to you? And see how that matches. And it's okay for this part. See if there are ways where it does not match with what your definition is. Ask yourself the questions why. Because it's time that you get to know yourself and where your current state of being is at. That's why the whole state definition thing that's from integrity, that's why I'm bringing it up, because that was literally a sign as well, where integrity has a lot to do with your state of being. It has a lot to do with your state of being. Okay, King of Cups. It's in the bottom of the deck. So it might be a water sign. Okay. So the only card that popped up, so everything else was laying down like this except for this card. And the first one is the Four of Swords. This is the renegotiation with your subconscious body that you need to fucking talk about with yourself. Okay? This is the mirror of that. Use the God-given awareness that you have to lay down with yourself, not just sit with yourself, because we're not going to do is sit and then there's something you're thinking of and you're like, oh, I got to get up. Okay. Unless it's like a responsibility that you got to do. If it's not and you could fucking put it off, you could fucking put it off. Right? So here we have the Hierophant right here. Okay? Hierophant, which is interesting because we were just talking about social media platforms, spaces of belief, spaces full of beliefs and stuff, but there are some spaces, like what I said, again with the portal, you are going through something here. Everyone plays a part, is reflected into this. Where you look is where you will go is reflective of this as well. Integrity as well, because a Hierophant, this is a spiritual person that's talking and sharing the message with people, even if there's barely anyone there. Okay, I'm not going to go on for too long, but there's two other cards that I do want to bring up, the Knight of Swords and the Temperance right here. So there's like a lot of this emphasis on speed as well, but as well as moderation throughout that speed. Things are just flowing quicker than expected right now. You might not see it right now, as you can tell with the horses and with this guy galloping, he's going from one world to a new one right now. So, and that new one is a new territory. And in that new territory, if you're going to be entering into that state, like what I've talked about with the image, right? You have to ask yourself truly, it's deeper than the quote, such as your awareness of me is a reflection of you and my reaction to you is an awareness of me. The question is, I think a better way to say it, honestly, for me is so overall, when you enter into this new life, into this new world, whatever question specifically comes up for you that you must answer from that quote, you must answer it before you enter. You gotta have to answer that question before you enter. Saturn is going into Aries in less than a week. That's also my birthday. But anyways, yeah, that like the 13th to the 14th, the new world is even newer. But what we're not going to do when we enter in this newer world is to not think deeply about that quote right now. Instead of thinking deeply about the files and deeply about like all this other shit, which by the way, I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, especially if it's your job and you know it's your God-given purpose. Like do it, okay? But you gotta ask yourself the deeper questions here of what is being mirrored back to us right now, so then we could be accountable at our own end, so that none of this fuck shit ever happens again. Even in your personal life, whatever it may be, and whatever relevance it has. Maybe you already have gone over it, and you've passed through that portal, and you're experiencing life with Saturn Aries and Neptune in Aries right now together, and you already are resonating with it. Maybe you are experiencing these transits like in the middle of the past, like now to 2 years. Okay, maybe it's already past 2 years, and maybe, you know, but there is a connection here, why this reading came around. So I want you to take that in, because that perspective is important. At the very least, the perspective of that photo matters. And whatever question comes up, start to answer it, because it's Pluto and Aquarius at the end of the day. What we're not going to do is not answer or ask, especially all of the questions, and not take the opportunity. So, thank you so much for coming through to my reading. So, I think that's all done. I think we're good. I think we could lay this to rest. Okay? I will see you in the next one. If you'd like to continue keeping up with me, you know what to do. I don't even need to say it. We already are reading each other right now. Okay? So I hope this reading absolutely helps you with whatever timeline that you're in right now. And I'm wishing you only the best. And I am only affirming the best for you like I affirm the best for myself. All right? Have a wonderful Aquarius season. Especially if you're in this timeline, particularly right now, continue to have a wonderful Saturn and Neptune Aries transit. If this continues to still be relevant to you, continue to have a wonderful Neptune and Aries transit. If you're already past the Saturn and Aries one and into the Taurus transit, and you know what the hell I'm gonna say. And you know, can I just say the fact that Uranus, I forgot to mention Uranus actually, maybe that's why the chicken was chirping like crazy. Uranus just stationed direct. Okay? It's stationed direct. Like recently, like a couple of days ago. So I don't remember exactly when it's going to enter into Gemini officially, but we are at the last degrees of Taurus, and I want you to keep your eye out or refer back to your notes on the day that Uranus is reaching the 29th degree of Taurus. And see what has happened or see what is happening right now, okay? And take these as hints. of how you're going to move forward from there, okay? So, have yourselves a wonderful day. Have yourselves a great season, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.